and what a formula for a really great UC personal insight question should look like. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Katie, otherwise known as the Vintage Academic. I am currently a senior at UC Berkeley. I'm also a transfer student, and I study anthropology and archaeology. I am also a professional college admissions consultant over at Accepted Consulting, where I help college and community college transfer students get into their dream universities. I help them with consultations to strategize their applications as well as essay reviews. So if you're interested in checking out those services, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. At Accepted Consulting, I've also developed an essay writing guide. So if you need some extra help or guidance on writing your essays, there's a link to that as well. Now let's get to the actual video, and actually that's what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about the essays that I wrote that got me into all of the UCs I applied to, including UC Berkeley and UCLA. Now again, if you don't know me, if you're new to my channel, something that's kind of important to know is that I've almost failed out of high school, and that's the reason why I went to community college in the first place. For like my entire transfer journey, go ahead and watch the video that I'll leave in the description below, because it's a little bit too long to explain in this video, so you can go ahead and watch that there. But the reason why this is important is because when my parents went to college was about like 50 years ago, in the 70s. So when I came into the college system, I had kind of no idea like how the system had changed, what was required of me, what the transfer process looked like, so I was basically going at it by myself. This is important because in 2018, when I took a look at my transcripts and I met with an advisor and realized that I could actually attempt to transfer if I wanted to, it was news to me. I had little to no idea about how that process worked, and that meant that I also didn't know how to write college essays effectively, and that I did things wrong, and that is ultimately what got me rejected when I applied the first time. So step number one of how I wrote my essays was to write really bad essays that were completely rushed with no research, no introspection, no brainstorming, and get rejected because of that. Now that's not the only reason why I got rejected. If you want to learn more about like the actual reasons why I got rejected, there's also a video on my channel you can watch about that. But essentially, long story short, I wrote really bad essays. I did not have all of my course requirements completed, and I did not know that when you submitted the transfer admission guarantee program here in California community college system, that you also had to submit a UC application, meaning that my entire application was just like thrown out. So step number one was to do everything wrong. Step number two was to realize that I had done everything wrong, and then I did a lot of research about not only the California Community College to UC transfer process, but also how to write an effective college essay, especially for the UC PIQs. The thing that's different about the UC PIQs is that most universities ask you for a personal statement, which is one longer essay, usually about 500 to 1,000 words. The UC PIQs are 4 different short essays that you have to answer that are only 350 words, and that takes a different type of strategy, a different type of writing in order for it to be effective, because you have such a small amount of space to convey your thoughts to the reader. So I spent a lot of time researching what successful essays looked like, what their components were, what the actual transfer process was, so I could do it right this time. Step number 3 was to try again. When the next application cycle rolled around, I had finished my course requirements, I had done a lot of research, and because I had been thinking about my essays for so long, I started brainstorming and writing my essays months before the application even opened. Even I remember sitting down as early as July and writing out some brainstorming ideas that I thought could be effective tools for conveying to the UCs what I wanted them to know about me. This also meant that I had the opportunity to write and rewrite and edit and revise and have trusted advisors and professors look over my essays and review them, so that I knew that I was writing the strongest possible essay I could write. Step number 4 was to submit my essays that I'd spent a lot of time working on and get accepted into all of the UCs that I applied to. Now, these aren't actually the real steps that I would suggest that anybody follows in order to have like a successful college application season. This is just what my personal experience was, and because I wanted to introduce the actual meat of this video with a little funny backstory. The actual point of this video is not to tell you the actual process of how I managed to get into the UCs with my essays, but to share with you what I learned from that process and what a formula for a really great UC personal insight question should look like. So now that you kind of have a backstory about like the actual process that I went through and why it happened the way it did and what I learned from it, let's actually talk about how you can write a really good UC personal insight question. All of your 4 short essays for the UC PIQs, whether you're a freshman applicant or a transfer applicant, should consist of 4 different components. The first thing that you're going to want to include is some kind of hook or an attention grabber. Ideally, this hook or attention grabber should be some kind of personal anecdote or personal experience, something that you've personally gone through, and using that as a tool, as a vehicle to share the things with the UCs that you want them to know about you. And having a hook is so incredibly important. Like the first 1 to 2 sentences of your UC PIQ should be this kind of hook, something that actually makes a reader stop and go, oh, I want to know more about why they're talking about this. Because here's the thing, the UCs in the past couple of years have seen historically large numbers of applicants. Places like UC Berkeley and UCLA are getting like hundreds of thousands of applicants every year, and that number is only going up. When the readers are given a pile of papers of hundreds of applicants, they are going to be reading the same stories over and over and over again, and you need to have something that makes your essay stand out just a little bit, just enough to capture their attention so that your essay stands out from the hundreds of applicants that they are reading that day. If your essay starts and sounds the same as every other essay, it's just going to blend into the background noise of having to read hundreds of applications. And so the way to make your essay stand out long enough for a reader to actually set aside time to look at it and get to know you as a person is to have some kind of attention grabber. Alright, so now you've grabbed the reader's attention. The next thing that you need to do is develop your narrative. When you're answering the UC prompts, it can be really easy to fall into the biggest essay mistake that I see, that I like to call the resume essay. You take all of your experiences, your coursework, your extracurriculars that theoretically make you a good student, and you list them in paragraph form. And this is not what the UCs are asking for, because they can see all of that information on your transcripts. As long as you are filling out the application correctly and you're including all of your coursework and you're filling out the activities and awards section with your extracurriculars and your awards, your activities, all of those things, they're already going to know what you've done. What they're actually looking for is your ability to develop a narrative about yourself that highlights different parts of your personality that are important to you. So things that are important to you, the values that you hold, the things that you've learned, being capable of showing growth and reflection and being able to apply those experiences to your academics. That's really what they're looking for. So instead of writing all of those things out in paragraph form, what you want to do is to develop this narrative, go off of that personal anecdote that you shared at the beginning, and use that storyline to show the things that you've learned, the ways that you've grown, and the skills that you can apply in the future. This is also a great chance for you to try and utilize some creative writing skills. Again, when you have like 100,000 applicants, there are going to be a ton of essays that sound exactly the same, that follow a similar pattern, and one of the ways to actually stand out and grab the reader's attention is to use your creative writing skills, approach it from different perspectives, different angles. Just try to get those creative writing juices flowing, try different ways of delivering this information. The third thing that you're going to need to have in your UC personal insight question essays is a connection to your academics. So you've grabbed the reader's attention, you're telling them this personal anecdote, this story, you're developing a narrative about all of the things that you've learned and how you've grown, but what you need to be able to do is also connect that back to your academics. Because this is a college application after all. Show the UCs what is it about this personal experience that was important to you, not only in terms of personal growth and skills learned, but how do those skills and how does that growth connect to your academics? How can you apply that experience and apply that learning to the way you approach being a college student? The fourth component of a really good UC essay is kind of what I've already been talking about. It's a common thread throughout all of these things, but it's reflection. In each one of these components, I've talked about showing the UCs how you've grown, the things that you've learned, the skills that you can apply, how you think, how you problem solve, how you approach situations, and all of that is going to take reflection and introspection. Use your writing to show the UCs that you're capable of reflecting on your experiences in order to learn and grow and apply the skills you've learned in the future. Show them that you're going to be capable of applying both your soft and your hard skills. And by soft and hard skills, I mean you don't have to necessarily say, I learned this methodology and that's going to be really important to me as a STEM major in my upper division courses, but even things like critical listening or developing determinism or resourcefulness as a soft skill, because those are still inherently important parts of your personality that are going to be really important to you as you move into your upper division units as a transfer student or just as a college student if you're a freshman applicant. Another thing that the UCs like to see is being able to reflect on these experiences and talk about how you're going to apply them not only to your university life but beyond. So things like internships, jobs, how you're going to carry your ability to reflect and learn from your future experience at a university into your career, into grad school, into life beyond that specific university. So those are really the 4 components that I find every single successful UC Personal Insight question has. Regardless if it's an essay that I wrote or an essay that I edited for a client, those are all of the things that I have seen in really effective UC essays. Now, if you're watching this video and you're not applying to the UCs, these things are still important in any personal statement. Your attention grabber, your narrative, your connection to your academics, and your reflection, those are all still components that go into a personal statement. There are some other factors that go into a personal statement, like the why this university part, which does not go into a UC application, specifically because the UC application is one application for all of the campuses. So one of the things to definitely avoid in your essays is talking about a specific UC campus if you're applying to more than one. So for example, I applied to 5 UCs. That means I should not be talking about the weather or a specific program at UC Berkeley because I'm sending that application to UC Berkeley and UCLA and UC San Diego and all of those campuses. So definitely avoid that in your UC essay, but all of these components are still applicable to a personal statement if you're applying to a university outside of the UC system. The most important thing to remember is that these essays are your chance to let your personality shine through so that the readers can actually get to know something about you and to give them the chance to take all of the numbers that are on the page of your transcript and contextualize them in who you are, in your life story, in your personality. So it's a really important chance to get to contextualize yourself and share with the universities the things that you think are really important for them to know about you. Get those creative writing juices flowing. Definitely take this opportunity to really make yourself stand out. If you need more help, again, you can always check out my college application essay writing guide in the link below, and you can also schedule a one-on-one consultation with me at Accepted Consulting. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to address them. If you don't have any questions, leave me a comment. Tell me, what do you think is the most important aspect of writing your college application? In my personal opinion, it's the essays, because that's where you get to actually show the universities who you are. Don't forget to subscribe for more college admissions, transfer, UC Berkeley, vintage, archaeology, anthropology related content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!